Hi friends! In this video I'm going to talk about my experiences standing at the intersection of being a non-binary trans woman and being a witch. Specifically, I'm going to focus on one massive obstacle that I face as a trans person within pagan spaces, and 3 of my beliefs as a pagan that make me feel seen, affirmed, and validated. Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Maddie, and here on this channel, we make videos about LGBT issues and mental health. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, consider subscribing and consider supporting us on Patreon, links in the description below. I feel like this is the summer of sequels, and honestly, I'm kinda here for it. First, it was 10 more signs I was trans but didn't know it. Then the week before that, it was Do You Need Euphoria to Be Trans? The sequel to Do You Need Dysphoria to Be Trans? And this video is a sequel to the 2019 video, What Does the Bible Say About Gender? In that video, I basically shared a short exegesis, an in-depth reading of the text, of a biblical text that I think is often misunderstood and, as a result, used as a clobberverse against trans and non-binary people. But in this video, I want to look at trans and non-binary people from the perspective of my own religion, which is paganism. I know that not everyone who's watching this video is necessarily interested in paganism, though for those of you who are, I hope that you find this video enjoyable for that reason as well. But ultimately, what I want this video to be is an introduction to a different way of looking at the intersection of religion and trans identity. So often the conversation about religion and trans identity tends to revolve around Christianity, which makes sense. It's the largest religion in the world by a few 100 million people. But just because it's the loudest perspective doesn't mean it's the only perspective, so I want to take you on a journey through the eyes of a transgender pagan. Important disclaimer before we begin though, I'm just one pagan, so this is just my perspective. And perhaps more importantly, I don't belong to any particular pagan tradition just yet, so I'm not speaking from the perspective of a Wiccan or a Druid or a Hellenistic pagan or anything like that. I'm just a witch who works with the Greek gods, works magic whenever the need arises, and does her best to honor the planet which gives her life. So yeah, just the perspective of one pagan who, for the time being, walks her own path. And now, with all that out of the way, let's get started. I actually want to start with a statement that's less than positive, but I think necessary to be said. Paganism is just as likely to be used as an excuse for transphobia as any other religion. There are a concerning number of TERFs, trans-exclusionary radical feminists, who use their paganism as part of their reasoning for engaging in hateful behaviors towards trans people, especially trans women. There's no way to figure out exact numbers, of course, but as far as I'm concerned, any number of TERFs in a given space is a concerning number. But yeah, it's not uncommon to hear TERFs talk about how their path is only for women-born women, and make disparaging comments about trans women invading women's spaces as if women's spaces aren't made for trans women too. And when TERFs who happen to identify as pagan are pressed on their harmful stances, they often hide behind a shield of, well, these are my sincerely held religious beliefs, same as adherents of many other religions who happen to hold toxic, harmful views. But I think the important thing to remember is that religions, when practiced properly, never give people a license to hate. Even religions that feature violence as part of their sacred texts usually tell a narrative that leads from hatred to love. If someone claims to hate another person because their religion tells them to, there's about a 100% chance that they'd hate that person even if their religion told them not to, and spoiler alert, their religion probably does tell them not to. When it comes to hatred, religion is always an excuse and never a reason. That being said, paganism has radically transformed the way I understand my own trans identity. I started officially practicing paganism in September of 2015, but didn't realize that I was trans until February of 2017. That being said, when I first realized that I was trans, I definitely didn't have any religious basis for understanding my own transness. My religious identity and my gender identity were two very different, completely unrelated things. And I'm honestly not sure when that changed. There definitely wasn't any sort of sudden epiphany or starting realization that trans people are sacred, that trans people are divine. But I think there are three pagan beliefs that have really gotten me to the point where I'm like, you know what? I really do feel affirmed and validated and seen in my religious tradition. The first thing about my belief system that really affirms me is the fact that, according to my path, we play a role in designing our lives so we can learn certain lessons. The way I see it, you're born, you live, you die, and then after you die, you review your life with your spirit guides, whether that's Jesus, the Buddha, Athena, your grandma, whoever. And after reviewing your life and reviewing the lessons you learned and didn't learn, you make a plan for your next life. You spend a little bit of time, or maybe even a lot of time, depending on your preference, in the spirit world, the afterlife. And then when it's your time, you're reborn into the physical world to learn more lessons. So as for me, I believe that one of the lessons that I'm supposed to learn in this life is how to be authentic. And I believe that one of the huge ways that I'm learning that lesson is through my experience as a trans person. After all, few things say authenticity as much as yeeting your old gender into the abyss and building a new one from scratch. So yeah, the fact that my path promotes the idea that we play a role in our own life experiences helps me feel validated in that I am trans because it's literally what's best for my soul, for my growth, for my ascension, for my ultimate good. The second thing about my belief system that really validates me is this idea of divine alchemy. This isn't a concept that's exclusive to paganism by any means. I think the first person I heard about this from was actually speaking from a Christian perspective. But I think it's a universal truth that the divine, whatever it's called in any given religion, is a creative force. By its very nature, the divine engages in acts of creation. And according to many religions, humans are given the ability to create as well. We create art, we create food, we create meaning, we create all sorts of wonderful things, and in many ways, you could say that we are partners with the divine in the act of creation. And when it comes to trans people, non-binary people, gender non-conforming people, we partner with the divine in saying, yes, I see what you've done with this body that I live in, but I think there's a way to make this body feel more like home. It's not that the divine made a mistake. It's that the divine created version 1.0, and we're working alongside the divine to create version 2.0. It's not that the divine made a mistake when she created lead. She's giving us the opportunity to turn lead into gold. And for some of y'all, all of this talk about this divine might not be landing with you, and that's totally okay. I like to say that religion is a lot like wearing glasses. Not everyone needs them, and not everyone who needs them needs the same prescription. Personally, I like the idea of working with the gods because it makes me feel supported and strong to know that I can call on them when I need help. But I imagine it would also make someone feel supported and strong to know that they have the capacity to be a badass alchemist on their own without the help of any gods. Whichever path you choose to walk, I think it's awesome to remember that trans people aren't correcting mistakes. We're just turning lead into gold. And lastly, the third thing about my belief system that really makes me feel seen is actually my path's focus on the dichotomy between masculinity and femininity. Though I don't currently identify as a Wiccan, my path definitely draws from Wicca in terms of the holidays I celebrate and the fact that I do tend to see the world through a dualistic lens. Fire and water, earth and air, sun and moon, light and darkness, good and evil, physical and spiritual, masculine and feminine. The world is made up of dichotomies according to my path, but that being said, the world is also made up of all the in-betweens as well. We don't just have the sun and the moon, we also have stars and asteroids and comets and black holes and all sorts of space stuff. We don't just have light and darkness, we also have dawn and dusk and twilight and all the other words we use for when the light and the darkness are trading places. It's very rare, if not impossible, for anyone or anything to be entirely good or entirely evil. Nearly everyone and everything exists somewhere in the in-between. And likewise, there isn't just masculinity and femininity, but also those of us who exist between and beyond the gender spectrum. Furthermore, my tradition teaches me that masculinity and femininity have very little to do with a person's physical form and everything to do with a person's spirit or essence or inherent way of being in the world. There are masculine women and feminine men. There are women assigned male at birth and men assigned female at birth. There are intersex people who have every right to determine for themselves how they identify, and none of these things threaten the dualistic principles of masculinity and femininity. There's a lot of diversity within humanity, and I think that's something to celebrate. So yeah, that's the perspective of one trans pagan whose religion helps her to understand her identity in a way that makes her feel seen, validated, and respected. I'd love to hear your stories about how your religion, or lack thereof, helps you to embrace your identity, and I'd also love to answer your questions about my journey as a trans pagan. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, consider supporting us on Patreon, links in the description below. But most importantly, remember that you're wonderful, and that the world is a better place because you're in it. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video. Bye!